That's true.
Where's the, so I know where?
Detroit suburbs somewhere in Berkeley. It's not super close.
We have a friend of mine that's got one that lives right over at Fish Lake in South Hollywood.
Oh, okay.
And then another guy lives on Rome Road, so I'll take some logs to him and cut them up.
Guy just opened some.
I'm glad you're here.
There's chairs inside here.
What's that?
It's a big one.
Yeah, the
guess.
first half didn't look good. They were playing with them a little bit. I don't know. Well, Vikings are a good team, but I just didn't like the play calling Lions were doing. Just like frustrating. It had me walking around quite a bit, like, I want that.
Those red chairs aren't the best.
Chuck, I sent an email out to the whole township saying you were going to be here. That's why we got a good crowd. Okay? They go, Chuck. Yep, Chuck's going to be here. And there's that. David's not here.
Take care of your business.
All right, cool.
That's all right.
Like it?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, true. It's 6:50. You doing a 3 minute?
I think maybe, unless he told me not to. Gonna start it? Turn it in a second.
Yeah. Is that Kurt Schultz back there too? Yes.
Okay, we'll get started, and I'll call the meeting to order. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are you sharing this with me?
You can have one.
We have roll call
Greg Carnes,
here.
Jennifer Eden. Here. Sarah Dolman Jersey. Here. Herman Ferguson,
Here.
Dean Hawes,
Here.
Chris Rapetta,
Here.
Pam Oppler, here.
All right. Before I ask for approval of the agenda, I have a couple questions, Chuck. Obviously, pertaining to number one, new business number one. You wrote the censor?
I drafted them.
You drafted the censor, and that was with the help of a board member or one, two?
I have talked to more than one trustee
Okay.
officer about that. They did not help draft it. They asked me to draft something that said A, B, C, and D.
Okay. All righty. Yeah, I wondered, because some of the verbiage in there, it like references, it suggests you have subtle references of my state of mind, intention of intimidating and mischaracterization. I just wondered how you knew what I was thinking. Anyway, moving on. So you drafted the censor, and then the board member submits it to the clerk. Is that correct?
I imagine that's how it
And they put it on the agenda? Is that how it goes? Okay. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 6 days notice? That's okay? That's within the law, or?
Point of order, we're discussing an agenda item before
Yeah, we're discussing whether it even belongs on the agenda, okay? So, and I need to understand this. I'm sorry. So, the censor is on the agenda, all right? So, if a resident, if I as a supervisor regarding a charge of nonfeasance, I could charge a board member with nonfeasance.
There is no law in Michigan that allows the board to charge other board members with nonfeasance, malfeasance, or misfeasance.
A board member can charge another board member with nonfeasance?
There's no law in Michigan that says any board member can charge any other board member, or the board itself charge a member of the board with any of those. The only law that there is when it comes to that type of thing is the board charging PC members. So if you're looking at the censure and you're trying to think, is this a charge of malfeasance, misfeasance, or nonfeasance? The answer is it is not. The penalty for those three things with the board to the PC is the potential for removal. There is no right, there is no way to do that at the board level.
Can a resident charge a board member with nonfeasance?
Residents can't do that either.
Okay. All right. Any other questions on the agenda, I guess?
Yeah, I have a statement about, and for some changes, if I may. Is that
Sure
right?
thing.
Okay. I'd like the resolutions for censure removed from the agenda for the following reasons. Trustee Dolman Jersey, who wrote the resolutions of censure with the help of the attorney, as he's mentioned, says the following: the board has reviewed the actions and decisions made by the supervisor trustee. There's three of them, as you can see in the packet. In the execution of his duties, and found discrepancies that warrant formal censure. No, the board has not reviewed this, nor was it presented to all the board members for discussion and opinion. It hasn't been here yet. We haven't even had a meeting on it yet, so the board has not done that. These resolutions are just the same as the PC nonfeasance letters that went out. Board hasn't talked to about them yet. Board hasn't discussed them. I don't see the difference.
Is that not why they're on the agenda?
I'm talking, please. Thank you. I'm making a statement. Please don't interrupt. So, should we just charge Trustee Dolman Jersey with the same censure resolution as she's charging us? These resolutions were not only published in the meeting packet for today's meeting, agreed, but Trustee Dolman Jersey found it necessary to appear on local radio programs to discuss the particulars of these items and this meeting packet and these resolutions for censure on local radio. And before the even review took place, I'm not sure why. Why is that something that's in the best interest of things? It's very transparent, of course, right? Really ultra transparent. But you'd think it'd be appropriate to talk about those things before you go on local radio or any kind of news or other things. So, but this is certainly an issue with the very standards and ethics that she is accusing us with. That's not so. And along those lines of standards and ethics, because Clerk Mogler in the past has disparaged myself and my wife to residents and township employees and elected officials, should we bring censure charges against her based on that too, based on ethical issues? I don't think so. That doesn't serve the community. Are there other charges for other things going on in the township that would not also comply with standards and ethics issues such as maybe misuse of township equipment or anything else that we should consider in the same line as these resolutions? Are we going to get into a battle or a war of this? This is not what the people voted for in this township. I think these resolutions are complete overreaction to the situation and not the way to foster communication and growth and things of that nature. The voters elected us to work together. Will that be perfect every time? No. No. We don't live in a perfect world. Of course it won't be perfect. But to go to this extreme when no laws were violated and no evidence against standards and ethics violations were included show that working together is not or may not be the agenda of Trustee Dolman Jersey and any of those who support this effort. So, with regard to the Planning Commission bylaws, the Planning Commission bylaws were followed. Section 4.12b states members shall be removed by the Township Board for misfeasance, malfeasance, or nonfeasance in office upon written charges and after a public hearing. Bylaws are available on our website, by the way, for anybody who wants them. It's right there. This is also the language that's used in the Michigan Planning and Enablement Act as well. The written charges were presented by the Township Supervisor Greg Carnes, including a notice to appear before the Board of Trustees for review, not for removal. At no time were the charges represented as removal in themselves. The charges were to be followed up by the appearance of each planning commissioner in front of the board to answer those charges, and only afterward the Board of Trustees would vote for or against the commissioner's removal. The board has to vote. The board has to vote for the appointment, and the board has to vote for the approval, just to be very clear to those who are interested. There seems to be really confusion by some of the members of the board that Section 4.12b of the PC bylaws says that the Board of Trustees must approve the charges in addition to all the steps leading up to a vote or dismissal. The Michigan Planning, but they do not. The Michigan Planning Enabling Act, Act 33 of 2008, Section 125.3815.9 says the legislative body may remove a member of the, by the way, the board, we guys are the legislative body, if you remember from our training. The legislative body may remove a member of the Planning Commission for misfeasance, malfeasance, or nonfeasance in office upon written charges and after a public hearing, which is what the PC bylaw states. That's what it's reflected. However, the law is silent on how the charges are to be delivered, by whom the charges are to be delivered, and whether the Township Board must approve the charges prior to their delivery. It just says the board has to approve it. The board is responsible to approve this. But the mechanism to deliver them is not specified. It's silent. Because both the law and the bylaws are silent on the issue, there was no violation. There was no effort to remove any planning commissioners with this charge of nonfeasance. It's designed to just simply point out that the work was not being done. Regarding the charge of nonfeasance, the initial charge based on attendance is very serious, but it seems to be considered not a big deal by commissioners, some residents, some board members. Attendance. Most members will miss meetings from time to time. I don't think anybody is in a quandary about that. And it's understandable. When a member is absent, they're not participating in the important decisions that needed to craft the ordinances and plans that govern this township. Because these votes affect the law that the township residents must follow, residents deserve the full attention of each and every commissioner to be there as much as possible to come prepared for each meeting. That's exactly what's expected of this board. Hopefully it sounds very familiar. An example of this would be Commissioner Wood. During the public comments at a recent board meeting, Planning Commissioner Bill Wood stood up and commented that he had a deal with the last board that he didn't have to attend all the meetings because of the nature of his job. We were all here. Many of you were here too. Well, we need to investigate such deals and close them out, because if we're going to allow these kind of deals to take place, we're automatically handicapping the Planning Commission from having an effective, full Planning Commission and discussions with regard to ordinances, laws, and things of that nature. Instead, Commissioner Wood was elected as the PC secretary, which is very interesting due to the fact that his attendance was only 50% based on public records of held meetings since in 2024 through November. So how are you voted no, voting as secretary is not a problem. That's what the commission wanted, but how do you perform the duties as secretary when you're not there that much? This is a problem. It's a symptom. There may be valid reasons for a commissioner a commissioner cannot attend, but if the attendance drops below some reasonable amount, then it would be, and if it's long-term, like something that's ongoing, and so on and so forth, like the case of Commissioner Wood, because his job was affected, or health issues or family issues, then the responsible thing to do is to resign and allow the appointment of another commissioner so that we don't handicap the Planning Commission, especially during important times like we just went through with the renewable energy, solar, wind, battery, writing of the master plan. This is absolutely a critical time in this township.
How is this related to the consent
I'm
agenda
not finished yet, I'm
at this
sorry.
point?
I apologize for
Just
that.
hold on.
So it is in the best interest of the Planning Commission, and it's the best interest of the township to have everybody present. But that's not, so attendance is important. It's really important. Don't minimize it. I'm explaining the reasons why these should be removed, these resolutions for censure. So
It's on
another-
the agenda for discussion, Chris.
it's not going to be discussed if we can remove them. I'm explaining, which I have a right to do, so please don't interrupt me again. So other nonfeasance types of things that have been going on that I've observed is that the Planning Commission has put us at legal cost and risk. They received an application for special land use for the caregiver operation under the MMMA, the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act, initially Law 1 of 2008, or MMMA. The application was denied. The PC was taken up, the PC...
We're getting off topic here. We're supposed to be approving or not approving the agenda.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
thank you.
And we don't need a 22-minute speech.
Okay.
It is. It's very important.
It isn't.
We need
Okay.
to make a vote on approving or not approving the
We'll let them
agenda.
approve it. We'll let them.
So there's lots of
Let's go.
other examples of nonfeasance. I mean,
I
why don't
make
we
a
spend?
motion to approve the agenda.
I second the
Support.
motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nay.
All in,
Oh, sorry.
Nay.
Sorry for jumping the nay.
That's all right.
Well, I guess I'll speak because,
well, first we need to go to the approval of the consent
Oh,
agenda.
okay.
With the regular board meeting minutes for December 17, 2024, the clerk's warrants and bills, January 2nd, 2025. So moved.
Support.
So next we move on to communications. Number 1, Planning Commission approved meeting minutes, December 10, 2024. Number 2, Planning Commission meeting synopsis, December 18, 2024. So in reading the Planning Commission approved meeting minutes, number 1, let me get to this here. It states in the paragraph, Rich Erickson nominated Chris Rapetta as Planning Commission Vice Chairman. Bill Wood nominated Kevin Ross as Planning Commission Vice Chairman. Rich Erickson made a motion to elect Chris Rapetta as Vice Chairman. Chris Rapetta seconded the motion. It was a tie vote, 3-3. The nomination for vice chairman was tabled at the direction of Supervisor Greg Carnes, who was in the audience. So my concern is the supervisor doesn't have the authority to direct the planning commission, yet it states in the minutes that you directed them to table their nominations.
Nor should you be speaking at a planning commission meeting.
Don't know if I directed, did I?
That's what it states here in the minutes.
Well,
So I have
think what he did
concerns
is
about
didn't
that.
state it. What he stated was, in the zoning board, when we had this situation, what
Yeah.
we did is we tabled. That was the statement. So maybe we need to start taking our meeting minutes better.
Well, I'm just reading what's
'Cause
in the board
I don't,
packet.
I did not tell them to do
No.
that.
He made a suggestion based off what they do at the ZBA.
Exactly.
And the question is, should you be making suggestions in a form of directing the planning commission?
He didn't direct. I was
I
sitting
think
in- I was
her
sitting in the
comment
audience.
is he shouldn't be
He
speaking
didn't
at
direct.
all.
He said, when we have this issue, this is what we do. And I believe at that time, they said, okay, that's what we're gonna do.
Well, clearly, they took direction from him. That's what the minutes state.
They're adults,
Yeah.
they can make a decision whether
They
they
didn't have to
ignore
follow it.
or follow that. The fact that they follow it doesn't mean that they took direction from him.
I even think they asked me,
I'd have to review
Planning
the, I'd have to
but
review the
I
video.
can't, yeah.
Audience that can-
I'd have to look
Yeah.
at it, I don't know.
So we're not gonna approve the minutes then?
No, it's fine. I'm just making a point that the supervisor doesn't have authority to direct the planning commission.
And he
Well,
did,
you haven't proved that that's exactly what happened either.
again, more
You know,
accusations.
we need more accurate minutes
It's like all
or
this.
to go look at and review the video
Lot of
before
hearsay.
bringing that kind of an accusation.
Right.
The accusation stems from the minutes that
Yeah.
I'm reading provided by the
Of
planning
course, but the
commission.
minutes are never wrong. We know that. The minutes are never complete. They don't have to be. They don't have to be
She
complete.
has
They
the
don't
right
have
to
to be
question what
anything.
was printed in the packet. She has every right to question
Yep.
that,
Yes.
respectfully, and she did.
We're responding. We
You
have
can
a right to
question, but don't make
respond.
accusations.
I didn't make an accusation.
Okay,
I read
Let's move on.
exactly what's in here.
okay, come on. Are we gonna approve the communications?
I'll make a motion to approve communications 1 and 2 and place on file.
I support it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Me, I'm opposed. Minutes are not accurate.
Okay, correct.
Public remarks. Scott?
Scott Dietrich, White Lake Road. This is exactly what we don't need for 4 years. I just want to bring your attention. Is this working?
Turn it on.
I just want to say, I come here a lot, been here most of the time, been here for years. Just before all the hoopla here,
Turn it on.
we had meetings,
Is it on?
and I'm
It's on.
gonna go back,
Use the mic, Mike.
I'm gonna go back to the Liberty House with the planning commission. The planning commission was working to try to approve.
Scott, use the mic so the video audience can hear.
Wait, can I make a
Hold on.
comment first? The first public comment is only.
I know, but this is
agenda
pertaining to,
items only.
you're gonna punish somebody. If you're gonna punish people,
The first public comment is for agenda items only.
okay,
period.
it is. If
Okay.
you're gonna censure these people,
But you're telling us about, saying something about the
Okay,
Liberty
hold
House.
on.
I don't see
hold
Liberty
on.
House on
We
here.
got off topic here, look, just hold on just a second. You're censoring people here, right?
Doesn't have to do with the Liberty House.
what's it does, because you're censuring them for the same thing the planning commission did on the Liberty House. You were told by this attorney that the offer they made to Liberty House was illegal. Did I ask for anybody on the planning commission to resign? Did I ask anybody to resign? The planning commission members are out here. They offered her a deal to approve that split if she promised the township she would not build. And the attorney sat there and told him he never heard anything about it. He never approved that, and it was illegal. So yes, this is pertaining to this. If you're gonna hold people accountable, you gotta go back. We can go back 14 years. You wanna pull up all this stuff? Bennett Lake, Urban Lake? I can do it. Listen, you guys, the censure is something that happens. I know, if you made a mistake, fine, let's eat it. Okay, let's move on. Okay?
Yep.
And
Thanks, Scott.
I could ask those guys all to resign. I'm very upset about that. I know it was the Liberty House. Okay, but my neighbors and I, we want to be safe there. And we couldn't even get a fence put up, okay, but I'm just saying, but this is what we want, but I'm gonna get on here.
Make it quick.
Okay, but these laptops and phones, you're gonna put the timer on now? We listen to Chris, come on, get off of it. The laptops and phones, no, I'm not for that. But, I'm gonna get into some stuff here. There's some stuff that needs to be taken care
You
of at the
have
end
to
of the
stay
meeting.
on the agenda, though.
I'm gonna,
Okay.
right now, we're gonna get into it later on. So
Okay.
at least people who wanna know some stuff, we're gonna hear some
All right,
stuff.
all right. Next. Anybody else? Come on.
Who's turned it on? Is it your place to talk?
Okay, Kurt. It's okay. Just let it go.
Kurt Schultz, Silver Lake Estates.
Yep.
I want to speak in regards to the censure. I'm really embarrassed to even be up here discussing this. It seems to me that I had to listen for 3.5 years to transparency in government and preaching that we're going to be open on everything. Yet what's the first thing that happens? You violate the Open Meetings Act. And it only took you 3 weeks to do that. You violated the trust of the people here. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a recall. I just don't get that. Yeah, sit and smile because that's the comment you made to me all the time. So, you got to know what you don't know. That man right over there, he's the guy to talk to when you do stuff. And you don't do it without the approval of the rest of the board. Now, it's going to be really ugly here because they're going to have to vote on this. And they're going to have to vote to censure people. Why? Because they should. Sit and smile there. The residents here expected more. What we didn't expect more of is for you to come in and simply try to push through stuff without following the process. And the problem is you don't know the process. He does. And he's your reference point. And okay, so we don't care about lawsuits. We don't care about who sues us. I got news for you. Your job is a risk manager here. You manage the risk for the township. You take the responsibility to make sure we don't get into frivolous lawsuits. That when we do have a lawsuit is one that we think we can win or we know that what the results are going to be. And that's your responsibility. But no, we're going to spend time censuring because people can't follow the rules that are in place. I'm embarrassed for you. You three especially. Thank you.
Go ahead, Zach.
Good evening, Zach Tucker, Lakebrook Drive. I'll be real brief. I just want to encourage the board to listen to the township's attorney instead of speeches. Attorney's a resource, it should be used. I echo Kurt's comments in that regard. Something else I want to bring to the board's very specific attention I think could very easily get lost in the noise. I find it pretty incredible that a politician who ran on a conservative platform a few weeks into his term is asking the board to provide him with business cards and a cell phone and a laptop. I just want the board to know I'm on the list of conservative residents that is definitely opposed to that. So, thank you.
All right. Jeanette?
You want to speak to this? I'm not sitting down.
Okay,
Okay.
that's fine.
Jeanette Rapetta, Tyrone Township resident. You may have noticed somebody stood up, two people before me, older gentleman, didn't say his name. That's Kurt Schultz. He was on the board earlier. Pardon me. And
Stick
I
to
just
the
want,
agenda.
yeah, I will. But he's the one who wanted to slap me across my effing face, okay? That's the guy.
All right.
Okay, so now that we know who all he is, it's really surprising and honestly disappointing to see so many people here tonight for what feels like a witch hunt. Imagine if even a quarter of this group regularly attended meetings that truly shape our community. Like the last Planning Commission meeting, that was the meeting that was held the day after the last board meeting, which was a very contentious meeting. But let me tell you something about that Planning Commission meeting. It was drastically different from every Planning Commission meeting I've attended in nearly 4 years. And I sent John Ward a message. I didn't want a message back. I just said, great, you did a great job. It was a really good meeting. And unfortunately, there were only 5 residents there. And we get this when it's a witch hunt, but we don't get people to show up for the things that matter. And yes, I've attended nearly every board and planning commission meeting, and I have a better attendance than most of the planning commissioners. And honestly, I believe I have a better grasp on the issues from some of them as compared to some of them, because attendance matters. Because you can't learn about the issues if you don't attend the meetings. In the past, most of the planning commissioners came unprepared and rarely participated in meaningful discussions. All you need to do is look at the videos. But the last meeting, and I'm giving praise here, after receiving from the letter from the Supervisor Carnes, it was a completely different story. Every commissioner was present. One was about an hour late, but he was there. And what really stood out was the level of preparation. They asked thoughtful questions, they referenced the packet, they participated in real discussions. It was not the kind of meeting it was the kind of meeting that should be the norm. And so what changed? Okay. I'm almost done.
Yep.
They realized that they were being watched, and this has to do with the censure letter, because you're censuring. I mean, they realized they might actually be held accountable for their lack of participation. That was what was different. The very letter that has been so overblown in this room tonight, overblown online, as the former supervisor's wife has been spewing her propaganda online. And let me be clear, Greg's letter wasn't a public condemnation, it wasn't accusatory, it was an attempt to encourage the Planning Commission to do the job they were appointed to do. And guess what? It worked. Now, the fact that the Planning Commission appears to have taken a more serious attitude in doing their job doesn't absolve them from the past.
All right, thanks, Jeanette.
Greg, you said that this was the main thing that you were going to do. So
we're going to get rid of it. We are going to get rid of it, but...
You are going to get rid of it?
Yeah, eventually.
And I can't finish my thought. This is the most important night, Greg, and you're going to listen to these ladies on both sides of you that are telling you to shut me up.
It's okay.
It's not okay.
I'm ready to talk myself.
Not okay,
I'm ready
Greg.
to move on to the new business. Thank you.
Not okay.
It is.
No,
It's
not.
okay. Jeanette.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Kevin.
Keep this guy on timer.
Yeah.
Hold on, Kevin. Okay, sorry.
Thank you, Chris, for your filibuster earlier. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Guys, last time I was here and I graced the room, the air was thick with smoke and even the watchers looked for fire but couldn't find it. So I went ahead and lit it. I called for the resignations of Chris Rapetta, Dean Haas, Greg Carnes. Spoiler alert, since then, their greatest hits have only gotten longer. This township deserves transparency, the thing that you guys ran on and you lied about. I hope the voters are watching. Let's start with the unapproved and illegal board action orchestrated by Chris, Dean, and Greg. While Greg was busy soaking up the Florida sunshine, coordination across state lines to sidestep proper procedure is a bold move, guys. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, last board meeting adjourning, Dean took it upon himself to scream in the face of trustee S. Sarah Dolman Jersey, one of 4 adults on the board here trying to keep things lawful. Dean yelling at somebody who for doing their job isn't just tacky, but it's really unprofessional when you try to get your wife into it as well. But then again, you've never let professionalism get in your way, have you? And I'm referring to your stunt with that fake letter to try to charge us at the PC. And Greg, welcome back for your second out-of-state adventure since taking office. First Florida and now California. And by the way, hope the weather was worth it. Now, in the words of John Ward, shush. Now, let's talk about your newfound wish list. Shiny new laptops, emails, phones, and even business cards. How precious. Who are you trying to impress here? We know this isn't about efficiency. It's about keeping your little side chats safely tucked away from FOIA requests. Newsflash, dirty laundry always finds a way to the clothesline. Oh, and I hear there's a censure on the docket today. Let me be clear. A symbolic reprimand is insufficient. The township deserves leaders who prioritize ethical governance over personal agendas. This township deserves leaders who care about ethics, not people who treat accountability like an optional upgrade. How many more financial penalties and reputational hits do we need before you take responsibility? So let me say it louder for the people in the back. Chris, Dean, Greg, your ego is not your amigo. It's time to resign, step aside, and let leaders with a shred of integrity do the job. The clock is ticking, and the township can't afford your antics anymore. If you truly care about this community, you'll stop playing government dress-up and make room for people who actually know what they're doing.
I don't know. Are we all done? All right. Do we have any unfinished business?
No, I don't see it. Nope.
Okay, and we'll move on to new business and discussion of my censure. I guess I
Well,
talk.
I think we should ask our attorney Chuck if he can underline the laws that were violated when those letters went out.
Laws were violated.
I don't have no facts to tell you what
Okay.
was violated.
Can't hear you. Could you speak in the microphone, please? Thank you.
I don't have enough facts to tell you whether there's been any laws violated. And I also.
We can't hear.
We can't hear you. Sir, I'm not understanding.
Yeah, should be. There, I can hear you, so you got it.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, yes.
I don't know enough facts to tell you whether there's been any laws violated. A violation of the Open Meetings Act would require at least 4 members. I have no idea whether that happened. And frankly, if there were violations out there, you wouldn't want me to be telling you at this board meeting of that.
May I comment on the Opens Meeting Act violation, supposedly? All 4 trustees and myself knew or were disappointed in the Planning Commission. We knew this well before we were elected. And yes, the 5 of us sat down, talked about it, and were elected for one of those reasons. That was one of the platforms that all 5 of us ran on, correct? After we were elected, not sworn in, after we were elected, we did not violate the Open Meeting Act at all. We did not violate it. The only 2 that knew about the letter was Dean and Chris. I apologize for getting you guys involved in this, but
I have a question for you, Chuck. As Chris pointed out, the law is very silent on how the letter can be supplied to the board members, correct?
Yes.
So they would look for a precedent as to what would do that, right?
When you say they would look to a
If
precedent.
this was to go to a court of law, he would look for some precedents as to where he could come up with an idea of how it might be done.
If there were a hypothetical lawsuit and there is no statutory guidance and there's no case law guidance, then a judge would have to make that decision. If there is case law guidance, generally speaking, the trial courts follow the case law guidance because it's case law established by a higher court, Court of Appeals, Supreme Court.
So I'm going to ask you this. Based on the fact that in our bylaws, when we appoint a planning commission person, the process is Mr. Carnes does not have, our supervisor does not have to go out to the public. He doesn't have to put out a notice of opening. He has the ability to bring a person in front of this board for appointment to the planning commission. Is that correct?
The supervisor gets to recommend. That is correct.
Okay. Under that same thing, wouldn't it be reasonable to think that he'd have that same ability to bring somebody up for review?
It's apples and oranges.
Why?
Because it is.
It's bringing somebody in front of the board. That's all it is.
On a charge, which is different.
And does he also have the right to state very clearly that the township board made a decision?
Does not state that anywhere.
Yes, it does.
Show me.
The letter was in the
I have a
packet.
copy of the letter right here.
Thank you, John.
all right.
Copy of the letter.
The language
got it.
very explicitly says the township board.
I would like to
I
read
want
this
to know
letter.
where the law is that says Mr. Carnes, our supervisor, has to have board approval to send a letter
To
out.
claim that the board made a decision that they never made.
He didn't say the entire
collectively.
board. He didn't
Yes,
say
he
the
did.
majority of the board.
Look
You
at
did
this
not.
letter. This letter states, Kevin Ross, Tyrone Planning Commission, your attendance record during the 2024 calendar year at Planning Commission meetings is less than 80% of held meetings. As a result of this, the township board is charging you with nonfeasance. The township board will hold a public hearing, line item on the agenda of the December 17, 2024 at 7 p.m. meeting, and your attendance is requested so you can explain your position. Thank you. Greg Carnes, Tyrone Township Supervisor.
So you're gonna hold him on censure because of a misquote, when it should have been instead of just the
Okay.
second one saying township board.
Okay, it's okay, Dean.
Okay.
Let me just tell you how we got here, okay? Let me just tell you how we got here.
There's no violation.
Early December, I reached out to each of the planning commissioners via an email to initiate a conversation on their commitment to the planning board and stress the importance of their attendance and engagement to the serious task in front of this township. Let me repeat that. I reached out to each of the planning commissioners via an email to initiate a conversation on their commitment to the planning board and stress the importance of their attendance and engagement to the serious task in front of this township. I had good conversations with 3 of them. One was uncooperative and one just didn't respond. So, in an effort to get this conversation, because time is running out on these important tasks that need to be done. So I wrote this letter because I didn't see any other way to make it happen quickly. After I delivered the letter to each of the members, I realized that it wasn't the best way to get my goal accomplished. So I asked them to destroy the letter and become null, and make it null and void, and make it null and void. My intention was not intimidation, but merely to hold the board members accountable to the township residents. This last item on transparency, well, I think we'll let the 6,500 voters that voted for me, they can decide whether I'm transparent or not. Not a few of you, and not this censor. In summary, the main reason I ran for this position was to make the boards more accountable to you residents. To have these boards draw upon the knowledge and experience of you, the residents. I think it's clear, even though my letter blew up in my face, well, I hope the Planning Commission stays in the direction it's headed. And John, great job trying to get the residents involved. Keep it up. I think you're going to have an easier time than me getting this board working. But I'm going to keep trying with this board. I'm not going to be discouraged. I guess you board members, you got to vote however you think you should. But if you vote for this, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong, because you don't know me. You don't really know who I am.
Once again, Mr. Carnes, I'll point out, in this letter you wrote, as a result of this, the township board is charging you with nonfeasance. I had no idea you were creating this letter. I had no idea that you were meeting with other board members. So
If I met with everyone, that would be a violation.
That would be the
Yes.
appropriate way
But
to
that would be
discuss
the
charges.
appropriate actions to take would be to bring it to the board table and have that conversation.
And by the way, that's the difference between the work and the trustees on this board that were involved in the censure. It was brought to the board table for discussion and action. It was not done through email with 3 people and then acted upon.
Okay.
So I'd like to go back here. I'd like to speak and go back here. Back to August 26th. It was a Monday, 11:14 a.m. You, Mr. Carnes, sent myself and every board member here a text message, and it states, I would like to get with all of you for an hour this week. Please let me know if Wednesday or Thursday works. I am thinking between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m., 1 hour maximum. One response, I can meet Wednesday. Your response, I think Herm is still good for Wednesday, that's 2. Another response, not available this week. And then, Mr. Carnes.
What's the date?
Monday, August 26th at 11:14 a.m.
Okay.
I had contacted you. I made a phone call to you and I referenced a 2023 case in Ottawa County where some of the County Board of Commissioners violated the spirit of the Open Meetings Act by meeting and deliberating outside of a public meeting prior to taking their oath. I informed you of the case. I suggested you Google it. August
28th.
August 26th, Monday.
I wasn't even elected.
No, you weren't. Listen. Pam pointed out to me that this is probably not a good idea for us to meet. In the spirit of transparency, we will not get together until after November 20th. And then Mr. Haas says, transparency to what? We aren't officially elected yet to anything. Herman says, wow, okay. Then Mr. Haas says, okay, Herm, so we are meeting with our board representative, LOL. So my point in bringing this up is I had informed you prior to you being elected, and every one of you was aware about the Open Meetings Act and that there are laws to follow. Yet, according to this letter, and according to your own acknowledgement to me, you admitted to me that you, Chris, and Dean discussed this letter. So then you presented this letter to the Planning Commission as though the board had voted on this and discussed it. You took away our voice and our vote, and you three made decisions without the remainder of the board. And we're supposed to function as a board, as a team, and communicate and have conversations and work together. We can't do that if you're making meetings and phone calls amongst each other to make decisions. Change
You might
can
want to read
happen.
that case a little further, because what it says is, if you meet with the purpose of coming up with a decision.
And you
And-
decided, you
No.
deliberated and made a decision.
He
This
discussed it
letter
with us.
right here.
Did I
This-
sign that letter? Did Chris sign that letter?
You
He
know.
came to us and asked our thoughts on it. We gave him our thoughts. Based on your thoughts, Mr. Carnes decided and
was-
created a letter and sent it out.
There was deliberation and a decision was made and the letter was sent, was hand delivered. That's my point. In addition to that, you said that the township board would hold a public hearing. I did not post any public hearing for planning commission members to come
pulled it
to.
off.
And that, but this is a letter you gave them. You told them there was a
Right.
public hearing
But I made it
on
null and
December
void.
17th.
You can't deny it. Come on.
I know, I made it null and void.
So what I'm saying is,
Well,
Come on, Greg.
Yeah.
You're digging a hole, buddy.
okay.
my whole point in being is that there are laws to follow, there
Yeah.
are processes, and we have to follow laws and processes. If we can't do that, we can't improve our township. We have to work together, we have to be a team, and we have to follow the laws and the Open Meetings Act and make decisions together and discuss that up here at the board table. That's the only way we can move forward.
Database there.
So with that being said, I would like to make a motion of censure of Supervisor Greg Carnes.
Support.
I had a statement to read first. Can I share my statement?
Sure.
Before. I guess I first would like to recap my own perspective in the events that took place, because I think each of us has a little different point of view. So at our last board meeting on December 17th, it was brought to the Township Board's attention that a letter was issued on the 10th of December to the Planning Commission stating that the Township Board was charging them, the planning commissioners, with nonfeasance for attending less than 80% of meetings, and invited them to come to a public hearing scheduled at the next board meeting. And forgive the redundancy, I just have to not miss anything that I wanted to say. The Township Board as a whole has never held a board meeting in which this letter or charges of any kind toward planning commissioners were discussed or voted upon. 4 of the 7 board members had no knowledge that any such letter was conceived or drafted until the evening it was delivered. There is nothing in the Planning Commission bylaws that says anything about expectations of 80% attendance. There was no public hearing scheduled for December 17th, and there was never a request for one to be scheduled. On December 10th, the above-mentioned letter was delivered in person by Supervisor Carnes to the Planning Commissioners at the conclusion of the regular Planning Commission meeting. Trustee Haas was also present, and Trustee Ropetta was present as the new ex officio appointee. In the days that followed, Supervisor Carnes called the clerk and said he had a quorum. I had a majority of the board who supported this action. This statement was false because there never was a publicly held board meeting in which a quorum was even present to discuss this subject or plan of action. He then asked the Planning Commission to throw the letter away and move on. At the December 17th board meeting, several planning commissioners spoke during public comment, as well as concerned residents. Concerns were raised that some board members were operating in secret, misrepresenting the board, conducting township business, and making decisions on behalf of the board without their knowing, which is an abuse of the authority of the township board. What I want to say is this. During my campaign, I shared and heard concerns about the Planning Commission relative to canceled meetings, attendance, and working toward the goal of being more proactive in addressing issues related to planning and zoning as opposed to being reactive. That is true. Engaging in dialogue about those concerns does not give anyone the authority to take actions on my behalf without my knowledge, without coming forth in a public meeting, without deliberation with all board members present, or without a publicly held board vote. Implicating the board as a whole as being involved in the conception, drafting, and delivery of this letter received by the Planning Commission is entirely false and egregious. Those involved did so intentionally without the knowledge of the board as a whole. The Township Board is required by law to operate as a public entity. Decisions must be made in public at scheduled meetings, not just voting, but also thinking, deliberating, and especially township business that is acted upon. Intentionally acting on behalf of the board and intentionally misrepresenting the board outside these parameters is a serious breach of the OMA, a serious breach of your board colleagues' trust, and a serious breach of the community's trust. And that is why we're discussing this letter. It is not just no big deal. Accountability matters. Ethical behavior matters. Following the law matters. The impact this situation has had on the township staff, fellow board members, and the Planning Commission have been severe. Instead of building working relationships, finding common goals, and making a plan together, a path has been chosen that is utterly destructive and divisive. If personal agendas cannot be replaced with genuine collaboration, healthy communication, and measured patience to learn to work within normed processes and laws, we will accomplish absolutely nothing as a board. It will be to the detriment and sadly at great cost to the residents. A township board should always operate with a moral compass to protect the best interest of the township we serve. We are sworn by oath to follow the law. What is being discussed here tonight is not what the people of this township voted for. No one mandated recklessness with their ballots. The board should consider that as a legislative body, we have only two real actions that can be taken when matters of misconduct arise within our board. One is to issue a public censure, to denounce on the record actions that have taken place. The other is removal from any committees or other township bodies for which a board member may be a participant. Furthermore, each of us has a fiduciary responsibility to protect the township's well-being. Ignoring behavior that threatens the township's fiduciary health would not be prudent. The situation before us is not a personal matter, but it is one that warrants a serious response from the board as a whole, given we were all directly implicated in these matters. We must consider any and all board actions to send a message that is abundantly clear this behavior cannot and will not be tolerated.
Thank you.
I'd like to add a comment, please. So, with regard to the items in each of the censure resolutions, they don't specifically tied to things like, for example, there's a claim that there's a violation of ethics, standards and ethics. But where's the documentation around standards and ethics that we can learn what that charge is for? They state that it's a possible violation of the Open Meetings Act. Well, we don't work in possibilities here. We work in, did you violate the Open Meetings Act or did you not violate the Open Meetings Act? Did you violate the law or did you not violate the law? And so I'd like to understand before voting and on these particular issues, what ethics and standard guidelines you're working from. I couldn't find anything out there in the public website from the Tyrone Township website that described ethics and standards for the township to be able to compare against so that we can understand. And I couldn't find anything in the Open Meetings Act that showed that we violated the Open Meetings Act, and even our attorney over there said that he would need to research it forward. So if we're on such a hot path to get something done and get a censure applied, wouldn't it be prudent to actually have the facts of these really important things before making these decisions? That's why I called for these to just be removed from the agenda. I mean, you can't solve a problem with creating another problem. You can't be vague. We have to follow the law, as you pointed out correctly, and follow the law. So tell us
The letter says it all.
which part of the law was not followed.
The letter said it all.
So this is why I have concerns.
Deliberating behind closed doors without, whether there's a quorum or not, in acting upon those deliberations without it being in a public setting and the whole board present is a violation of the OMA. Okay, whether there's a quorum or not.
I would
You
like
can't
the
deliberate
attorney.
and act upon it.
I would like the attorney.
Second, I don't think we need to have a written policy to know that misrepresenting each of us that were not part of this in writing on township letterhead and making it an official township document claiming that we all knew about this is misrepresentation. How do we even question whether or not that's ethical? That's just given.
My comment wasn't about the ethical nature.
You just asked for ethical standards
Okay,
of proof.
can I clarify, please? My comment was to understand where the standards and ethical guidelines are to which you're making these charges. And you're saying there isn't any, and so that's fine. I get your question. I'm not saying there's no ethical questions. I'm simply saying, where's the documentation that you're charging in these censure resolutions? That's what I'm asking.
I haven't said anything all night, but on January 3rd, I sat right here and somebody asked Chuck about the planning commission. He specifically said that the planning commission acts separate from the board. And then 5 days later, a letter was written. I was pretty clear on that we act separate, the planning commission acts separate from the board, and we have no dictation of what they do. Am I right, Chuck?
Yes.
So I don't know why, after you stated that they went ahead and gave them a letter after you said we have no authority over the planning commission. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
So I didn't know that. That's why I asked you. So then the letter was written 5 or 6 days after you recommended and said that we do not dictate what they do.
You said about 4 things. I apologize, but
He said one thing, Chris. He said that we do not, clearly, do not have any jurisdiction or any guidance. They act separately from us. Separately. He said that right there.
he also...
And then 5 days later, a letter was written. This letter right here. That's what confuses me. When our attorney who Zach said we should talk to, and I asked him that. We've heard it right here, and he stated it, and everybody heard it. We were all here. Did you hear that? When he said that they act separate, the planning commission. Did you hear that? Yes or no?
Okay, so
It's
here-
January 3rd. You sat right here, Dean, and argued with it.
there's two things that you
December 3rd,
asked.
Yep, December.
Is whether the board has control over the planning commission. And the answer is the board, this board, has control over all the things in the township. The question that came up with respond to him, because I was the one proposing it, was can the board provide direction to the planning commission of things to cover? And the attorney said, yes, they can provide direction. We can't tell them how to decide on things. We can't tell them what to decide on things. We can't tell them what discussions and how the discussion should go. We don't control them. They're a separate entity, absolutely. But don't confuse being allowed by law to provide guidance. We approve appointees. And the law clearly states, as I read, that we would approve removing board members. That doesn't constitute no control. This is a misunderstanding. There is
It is a misunderstanding.
absolutely
Chuck, do
control.
we control the planning commission?
No.
Not any way, shape, or form.
So,
Thank you.
this is it. Can we vote?
So we don't vote on
Yes.
appointees. We don't vote to
Well-
appoint people.
We
Is that
do,
correct?
but that doesn't mean we control them.
That's right. We
That's
don't
where
con-
you three have to get
No,
out of your
we're-
brains.
we don't control- We
the
don't
planning
control
commission,
the
period.
planning commission.
You just said it.
That's right, we do not control the planning commission, but there are things we do that provide direction and other things. I'm trying to clarify because of Herman's point. So,
It's direction, not control.
Absolutely.
Let's move on.
So going back to this letter, the bottom line is it was a blatant violation of public trust and the
Yes.
tenets of government transparency.
Yes, in our opinion, you do not write a letter that says the Tyrone Township Board did this. We did not do this.
Let's just,
Let's
just vote, please.
We had this resolution at the table. I made a motion for that resolution
Herman
of
seconded.
censure of Supervisor Greg Carnes. Herman Ferguson seconded it. We'll do a roll call vote. Dean Haas,
Nay.
Chris Repetta,
nay.
Sarah Dolman Jersey,
Yes.
Jennifer Eden,
Yes.
Greg Carnes,
No.
Herman Ferguson,
Yes.
Pam Offler, yes. Resolution 2501 has passed. Next, we'll move on to the discussion of censure of trustee Dean Haas. Do we as a board need to have further discussion? Or are we ready for a motion?
They want to censure me for supporting my supervisor, I'll do it.
I'd like to know the extent of the conversation that went on in the email between the three of you. I've not seen that thread because I wasn't part of it. I don't know if there was feedback given, if there was suggestions of language, using the township board language. Can the three of you enlighten us, please, as to what specifically your involvement was?
Transparency.
Similar to the stuff you would tell me, Sarah. No, pretty much.
That's okay. Hey.
Can you repeat your question, please?
Yeah, I would like you and Dean and Greg to share with the rest of us what your involvement was in the drafting of that letter. Greg has said there was email correspondence on December 8th and 9th while he was in Florida. He sent you a letter you offered feedback, and I'm wondering, did you offer suggestions of language? How was it that you were involved?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So all three of you were aware that it stated that the
Well, I'm
township
speaking
board.
for myself. Sure. Why wouldn't we be involved? We
Yeah,
were-
I mean, there was.
Absolutely.
And you were comfortable using language that stated the township board was charging the planning commissioners with nonfeasance, knowing well that the township board was not part of that decision. That's the language that really hits hard, Chris.
I understand.
If a board makes a decision on something, I am all for it. I may not agree with it, but if we make a decision to do something. But this is backhanded as it gets. The fact that I had to have 2 phone calls late at night after that meeting, wondering what the heck was up with this letter that I knew nothing about. I'm like, well, I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to bring it to the office in the morning because I don't know what you're talking about. Had no knowledge. Well, it says Tyrone Township Board is charging us with nonfeasance. That utterly made every one of us look stupid because 4 of us didn't even know about it. And I don't appreciate it. And I think we've had those conversations. I know it was an error that was made, poor judgment, stupidity perhaps. Hopefully we can get past all this and move forward as a board and learn from our mistakes and start doing some business.
So we make a motion?
I guess I also would like to know from the 3 of you how you feel at this point in time. Do you feel that you truly have done nothing wrong and you're content with the choices you've made? And you feel that that has somehow improved things for the township and for the planning commission?
As I mentioned in my introduction, I think there's always room for improvement, right? That's what I said.
Yep.
There's always room for improvement. I can't speak loud. There's always room for improvement. So that's what I say. Do we need to take action and hold people accountable in this township? Absolutely. This township has not done a very good job of watching over fiduciary responsibilities, spending the taxpayer money, and all of these things, the business of the township. We have a lot of serious issues ahead of us as well. Can we improve? Absolutely. I absolutely admit that we can improve. And that's what I look forward to. Okay?
Me too.
Yeah.
So what do you want to do?
We already censored Greg. Are we gonna stop with just one?
No.
Then make a motion. I make a motion. It's either 1 or, 0 or all.
Is there a second?
Support?
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Herman Ferguson,
Yes?
Jennifer Eden,
Yes.
Greg Carnes,
No.
Chris Repetta,
No.
Zach Sarah Dolman Jersey,
Yes.
Dean Haas,
No.
Pam Offler, yes.
Pam, does he have to state what the motion is for?
Yes, of resolution 2501 of censure of trustee Dean Haas. Okay, moving forward to discussion of censure of trustee Chris Rapetta. Do you have any questions or further discussion?
I make a motion.
I have concerns because, Chris, you in particular are the newly appointed ex officio on the Planning Commission, which is the body that you were appointed to serve. And I just, I feel like the actions that you've taken toward them have really jeopardized that working relationship. So I'm bringing that up for discussion. I don't know if anyone else has strong feelings about that.
I have concerns as well. If you're involved in this type of letter, how can you work with the Planning Commission without being intimidating towards the Planning Commission? I don't feel that that would be a good working relationship, and it would not benefit our township with that type of friction
I
involved.
disagree. Chris has incredible knowledge on that. He has worked very hard. It would be a severe mistake to pull him off as our representative on that planning commission. A bad mistake. And we need to be more concerned with this board getting working together than that board. That board is on its way to being fine, and I would not mess with it. This board, we got some repairs to do here. So
I hope you're going to be involved in those repairs.
Chuck, in this situation, please quiet everyone. In this situation, so we have appointed as a board, Mr. Rapetta as ex officio to the Planning Commission. Can we rescind that as a board?
According to the Robert's Rules of Order, the appointment was made, was it 2 meetings ago?
Yes.
Can you speak in the microphone?
According to Robert's Rules of Order, which I think the township has adopted, the only way to go about that would be to, at the same meeting that he was appointed, address it then or at the immediately following meeting.
Okay.
And so according to the Robert's Rules of Order, that mechanism is unavailable at this point.
Okay. What options do we have? How can we make that a good working relationship?
Are you asking me what options you have to change the positions on the?
First, to remove him from that position.
The board could charge him with malfeasance, nonfeasance, misfeasance. If the board charges him with that, you would have a scheduled public hearing. They could answer the charges, and after that public hearing, the township board can vote.
Okay. Is that a discussion that we should have and move forward with that?
Yes.
I'd like to know what the planning commission thinks.
Only
Or
right.
there. I mean, I don't know that we can.
Are the planning commission members here? Are all of them here?
Well, we should probably have
Can-
Chuck before we do that, if it's legal to ask them that.
Is it legal to ask them that?
Their opinion,
Their opinion on that?
or do we do that?
What I would tell you, first of all, you can discuss this issue tonight. I would tell you that within the time frame that we have in our bylaws, put it on your agenda to decide whether to charge. Then at the date of the public hearing, anybody, including the PC members, would have the opportunity to talk. And obviously, at the call of the public, during a regular meeting, they can voice their opinions there too.
Okay. As a board, do we want that on our next agenda?
Yes. Sarah?
Doesn't have to be a motion, it's on the agenda. Does it?
No, it doesn't have to be a motion to be put on the agenda. Just in a conversation. Are you on board with that, Sarah?
I'm on board with the conversation, yeah.
Greg?
Sure.
Jennifer?
Yep,
Dean?
I'm on board with the conversation.
Sure.
Chris?
Could you clarify again what we're supposed to be on board with or not?
Having a conversation on our next board meeting. Having it on the agenda to discuss a public hearing to remove you as ex officio to the planning commission
Sure.
for malfeasance. Okay, well, then we'll put it on our next agenda. Okay, so we're on the resolution of censure of trustee Chris Repetta. Is there a motion?
I make a motion.
Okay. For 2501 of censure of trustee Chris Repetta. Is there a second?
Support.
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Greg Carnes?
No.
Sarah Dolman Jersey?
Yes.
Chris Repetta?
No?
Herman Ferguson?
Yes.
Jennifer Eden?
Yes,
Dean Haas?
No.
Pam Offler? Yes. Sarah. Okay, moving on to new business number 4, request of trustees for township email addresses, laptops, phones, and business cards.
Who made the request?
It's in the
Mr.
board
Repetta.
packet.
Mr. Repetta
Yeah.
requested laptop, cell phone, business cards. Did you want to lead that discussion, Greg?
Sure. I talked with an attorney, actually Laura Foster Swift, and regarding this. Well, I talked to her.
Conflict of interest?
And I just asked her about what other townships do, and she told me that email addresses were pretty typical. Laptops, no. Phones, mobile phones, yes. And she couldn't really answer the business card. I really just recall her saying that the township email addresses were definitely what other townships recommend or do.
Can I ask our municipal attorney that's sitting here to my left his thoughts about that?
Sure.
And whether or not
Sure.
that's...
Sure.
I've already had a conversation with a couple of the trustees. I've had a discussion with a couple of the trustees where I did recommend that the board members have township email addresses, and that all business, that is, all communications, I should say, relating to the township go through those emails as opposed to privates.
Can you explain why?
Because the documents that you are creating through those emails are public records. If there were ever a lawsuit by anybody claiming that the Records Retention Act has been violated, or there has been a lack of a proper response to the Freedom of Information Act request, and if that lawsuit is filed, then if personal devices with personal emails are used, they are subject to subpoena, which means all of your phones could be examined and everything on it potentially could be made public. Furthermore, by using a township email address, it is much easier to be able to gather township records and keep them as required. So I recommended within the last month that the township have email addresses assigned for the trustees.
What is to prevent a board member from having a township email address to conduct township business, but then trusting those individuals to not be conducting their township business with their personal email outside of those parameters?
Unfortunately, there's no guarantee. There isn't. You know, and so if people are to use private emails, if they're ever caught because of a lawsuit, you know, that's potential liability to the township and them individually. You know, I have reviewed parts of the law recently, and not only could the township be liable and be hit with a civil penalty, which could include the payment of a lawyer's attorney fees who represented a member of the public suing the township, but a township board member who falsifies that they have provided public records in response to a Freedom of Information Act request, they could be charged criminally. And so while there's no guarantees, there's plenty of incentive to keep your personal business separate from that of the public business.
So do you vote individually? Each one, computer, phone, email, business cards, or just no on everything?
I just had one comment. I don't mind the email addresses. I get that. The trustees are not supposed to be conducting business outside of this boardroom. So I'm not sure why you would need a laptop phones or business cards, because who are you handing them to? Because we're conducting our business here. That's just my thoughts. But I don't have a problem with the email addresses.
I don't either.
I don't either.
It doesn't cost anything.
Well, it does.
It does.
but-
It'll be about $12 a month per email address.
And the IT people have to set it up.
Yes,
And all
yeah.
that. But,
Yeah. Yeah.
Not a big expense for making it easier for
Right.
township record, I guess.
So what do we do, Greg, on each one? So we're gonna go ahead with the email, and what about the computer, phone, business cards? Are these separate things?
Yeah, I think you can, there's no reason you can't vote on them individually.
Okay, we'll start with the emails. I make a motion, we accept the emails.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Oppose? All right, what about the laptops?
No,
I don't support that expense. I don't think it's necessary.
let's vote.
All in favor of the,
But we don't have to make a vote on it if no one's making a motion
yeah,
on it.
Oh, yeah.
motion for laptop? No?
You want to make a motion?
Okay.
Well,
Lap-
No, go ahead.
Laptops are off,
Did you want to make a motion?
Oh, I'm okay if you guys,
Yeah.
it's clear you guys aren't.
laptops off, okay. Phones,
No.
I got a motion for phones,
I motion for a phone.
I got a second. All right, phones are off, and then, do we got a motion for business cards?
I motion for business cards. That was my request.
Yeah.
Of course.
A second? Okay. Business cards are off too. So, township email addresses for the trustees.
So they'll be supplied to all four trustees, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, on to number 5, the PEG funding.
Yes. Do you want me to-
Well,
or you want to say something?
does everybody understand what PEG funding is all about?
I have some questions about it.
Okay?
And if nobody minds, I reviewed the documentation and I've looked at the PEG funding before, so I kind of get and understand that we give the school systems and potentially parks and other people, but we don't have anything going to those. But is this a mandate use of taxes by state law or by county law?
Good question. This is where Jennifer can help you because
Okay. Let's
this
let
really
Jennifer-
isn't our,
Monies.
it's not our money.
Well, no, I understand, but
Let's let Jennifer explain the
Yeah.
whole process.
So, sorry.
You know what's great is she's on that.
I
You're
am
the
board.
chair of the
I am
board.
the chair of the board
Okay.
of
Yep.
FECT, which is Fenton Area Cable Television Consortium. So what happens is the state mandated the cable companies to charge a fee, and then they give that back to us. So we get a check from Spectrum and from AT&T. But those funds can only be used for educational purposes on equipment. So the Fenton area, or the FACT group, Fenton Area Cable Television Consortium, they started in Fenton. It includes Linden Schools, Heartland, we brought in Heartland Schools, Linden, Fenton, and Lake Fenton schools. So all of them combined, we each get monies, and it shows you on, let's see, so you can tell. So last year, on the top of that list, annual PEG fee receipts.
Yep.
The four of us received $238,000. Tyrone Township, you see, we gained $42,163. Based on that as a percentage of what we give out. You know, Fenton Township, you'll see, received more, so they pay out a bigger percentage of what's given or offered. So those monies can only go to the schools, and as you can see the applications. We have a streamline, we have inventories, each school has an inventory. If someone, let's say Heartland isn't using 2 cameras and Fenton can use them, then we remove them from this inventory, we transfer them within.
Okay.
So if they're asking for them, and Michael Fox is our PEG coordinator.
I saw it.
Is there like a website that you guys have where like say?
Not a
had
website.
cameras
Well,
and
we
just
do-
wasn't using, they can put them
Yeah,
out
so
there
each
so
school
somebody-
has the inventories, each other's inventories, and Michael has everybody's.
So like, if I have
Yes.
2 cameras in Heartland, they can see
Yes.
that there's 2 in that.
Yeah, and they can even rent them, or not rent them, but check them out. So a student checks these out, so they're used for their video, audio, classes, their computer classes. So it's really streamlined, like their inventory, everything has to have a label on it. When it comes in, the new, it gets a barcode, so wherever it is, the school knows where it's at. If one comes up missing, then they have to replace it. If I checked it out and I lost it, guess what? I'm paying for it, right? So it's, and then they get to make the request. It's very streamlined. If they don't need it, if Mike thinks they don't need it, a couple of the schools asked for acting costumes, and we said no, that wasn't happening. So those were removed. Well, to them, they're important, right? But to me, they're not educational equipment. You know, we don't need a costume, we don't need fruit in a bowl. That was one of the things asked for. So they are streamlined, but it isn't our monies. It is for only that group. It's one of those funds that is dictated of what you can spend those monies on. So this year, the schools, Fenton area public schools like Fenton, Linden, Heartland, Southern Lakes Parks and Recs, and then the FACT coordinator if he needs something. Only the 4 of them, have asked for something, and our amount is what I'm asking for, or asking the board to pass, is the $35,000 556. You may have noticed that Heartland is only solely under Tyrone Township. And that is because we invited them into this group and we take initiative for them because we are the only ones that we collect their tax money for. We get that revenue, we get the cable for that.
Sure.
So we do a 21%, we pay theirs, and then we get a lower amount on everybody else's to make up for it.
And so this, as you mentioned, the monies for this 35,000 are reimbursed to us by the.
It's not reimbursed, it's already in a fund.
It's in a fund somewhere.
Yes, so we have,
Okay.
currently in the fund
Yeah.
is $425,237.
Okay, so we're not charging our residents in
No.
that sense, this $35,000 and then.
No, it comes solely from the cable TVs. It's a fee that the state mandated them to charge every consumer that has
So
it.
yeah, residents do.
Yeah.
Yeah, the residents pay for it.
Right, yeah.
They give it to their cable company and then the cable company gives it back to us.
Right.
Yeah,
Roundabout way.
right,
Right, so it's
And-
not direct.
right,
And,
right.
and am I clear in my understanding, we actually have more money in our fund
Yes,
than
then
we
they're
have to
asking.
give up?
Right,
And-
right. So it's an ongoing fund that
Right.
grows. Some years they ask for more, some years they ask for less. I mean, it's a,
Is
Yeah.
it a
It
one-time
fluctuates.
ask? I mean, is it?
once a year we do that.
Once a year they do
Yes,
that.
once a year unless they have something that happens. Let's say their building gets hit by power and they lose 20
Life-changing
computers.
event, as they like.
Yeah, right, then they may,
Okay.
but typically it's done once a year at this time. And then they order the equipment, we all approve them, and then they order the equipment by the end of the school year and get it submitted, so next year it's all up and running by August when they start school.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Did that answer everybody's questions?
I think so.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I was also looking at a little bit introspectively about reporting and stuff to see if any of the people taking these classes actually had the impact of what they were saying, like to impact community television or.
Right,
or
actually, a
those
couple of
types
them are
things.
working at the news station.
Well, that was
Yeah.
what my question was, is
They're
do we
really,
see the results of the
actually, the board
the
can
investments?
request to go and look at, view it at our next FAC meeting, if you guys would want to join. You can be our guest and go in there, and their studios are phenomenal. Lake Fenton and Heartland, Fenton too, they're very nice. And to see the kids sitting down and what they streamline, most of them are doing little segments before school starts. They go, ask advice of teachers or ask the kids, take a poll or whatever, but they're really engaged, and to see them sitting down, we got to view some of the classes, to see them sitting down and using the equipment that we're able to offer them to teach them and train them and their video, and it's great to see. I like to see kids excited
Sure.
about those kind of classes.
That's great. Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
All right, I'm looking for a motion to approve the $35,556 for PEG funding.
I make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Miscellaneous business?
None?
All right. And
Mr. Supervisor, we should have on our next agenda the issue of the appeal to the circuit court from a township decision to deny a zoning variance. And I think it's Anderson, as I recall.
Okay, yep.
There has been an offer made by the other side to settle.
another one? Or-
Pardon? No, it's the same
Same
one
one?
that I
Okay.
advised
Okay.
existed.
Okay,
And I would recommend that we go in closed session to discuss strategy in that case. We do have another appeal that's pending. We don't have any offers from the other side. We don't even have an oral argument date, as I recall, for the disposition of that case, so that does not need to be done at this point. So I, request at the next board meeting, we discuss that appeal, that one appeal. I think it's Anderson.
Yeah,
On the zoning
the
issue.
ZBA
Yes.
thing, yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm, okay. All right, well, we'll now talk about that, and then we'll get it on the,
Get it on the agenda.
yep. All right. Any other miscellaneous business? Then we'll do public remarks. Go ahead, Scott.
All right, Keg Grant was good. You guys actually all smiled and had a conversation and worked together. It was great. All right, I talked to a lot of people since all this has went down. And I was one of the ones most disappointed in the bunch because I fought hard for years to get things done in this township. I've heard lawsuits, and the only one you're going to sue, I've talked to Kevin, the only one you're going to sue is the people. People didn't do this. Greg took responsibility. He stood up there and told us he put the letter out. So he made a confession today, okay? And Jennifer says, hey, we got to all work together. So in the future, let's work together, okay? Accenture was they had to separate themselves from it. It's legal. I mean, I can understand what Accenture is. So, I mean, it's a slap on the hand. I mean, but the lawsuit for these guys, I mean, like I brought up earlier, the planning commission made a mistake. And the lawyer told the board about it and said they made a mistake. They never should have offered that to Susan Abbott. So, we're going to make mistakes. So let's take care of it. But the second thing is, who's going to take Chris's place? That's all I want to know. One of you guys, before you make this discussion, find out who wants to do the job, okay? Well, whatever, I don't care. I'm not taking sides.
Stop, we're not.
I'm not taking sides. I'm one in the middle.
That's,
Okay, hold on, let me talk, okay? Yeah, she likes to speak. We all speak out. Listen, it's temperamental right now. It's a lot of political crap going on. I want to stay in the middle, okay? I am very disappointed in stuff that I learned during the election process, and I came in and talked to a few people. I hope we can put the other stuff behind. The punishment's been handed down, and if the planning commission wants to sue this township, then I think the people are going to be a little bit upset because you're suing us. You want to take money out of my hand? Keep paying the lawyer, he's loving it. And I'm not blaming you, Chuck. Anyways, let me get the microphone. During the election, Greg, we talked to you. You told us you wanted to run. And you told us you were going to sit down and talk to Mike and inform him you were running.
I did.
And you wanted to be a man about it. All right? You didn't want to do it behind his back. All right. Now, I don't know if this is true, but I've asked you a couple times. And I think this because it's election integrity. Where you told me, I said, were you offered a deputy job? And you told us yes in the meeting. That you were offered a deputy job not to run. That's the question I asked you, was that true? Yes or no? Well, I want to answer because it makes a difference. The only reason I'm saying.
He said, I could hire you as a deputy supervisor.
Okay.
And I said, really?
Yeah. Okay.
And how would that work? Well, I could help, I could train you.
Yeah.
How would that, how much would that?
Okay, that's my point.
Let me finish.
Okay,
How
go
much
ahead.
would that
All right.
pay? I don't
All
know, 20 grand.
Okay, that's fine.
That was the extent of the
All I want to
conversation.
know is was offered, okay? That is bribery. And I'm going to tell you why. Because it was done in June, and I come in here because everybody says come and talk to us. And I've talked to Pam and I talked to Jennifer. And I've talked to a couple other people that worked here. Okay? And you know what the excuse I got? He offered to train afterwards. Let me tell you something. If you're running for a supervisor and you offer a man a job using township money in June, what are you training for? Are you retired? He ran. He put big billboard signs in all these businesses' yards. This is bribery. These are election law violations. Why isn't this being taken care of? I'm sorry, to me, it's a bribe. I'm sorry.
It's okay, Scott.
I'm sorry. Someone tries to offer somebody money,
Well,
not one
hey.
election, using township money, I don't like it.
All right.
I think you guys should revisit the voting on a cell phone or a laptop. A cell phone will cost monthly, a laptop is a one-time purchase, but I think after what he said about, now you have a township email, are you gonna check it on your personal cell phone? Because as soon as you do, you're opening your personal cell phone up to subpoena. So I personally would not open a township email on my cell phone or my home computer or anything else that I personally own. I think you should revisit maybe getting, what's a laptop cost, $800, and it's a one-time purchase and you're done? I would rethink that.
All right, thank you. Okay. Anybody else? Looks like it's you, Jen. Come on, Jen.
Jeanette Ropetta. So I'm obviously deeply disappointed by the decision to move forward with the censure resolutions. These men have worked tirelessly to bring transparency and accountability.
Could you speak into the microphone?
Sure. Sure can. Start my time again, please. Can we start the clock, please?
Let's reset it, yeah.
Thank you. I'm deeply disappointed by the decision to move forward with the censure resolutions against Greg, Dean, and Chris tonight. These men have worked tirelessly to bring transparency and accountability to Tyrone Township, and this decision feels like a deliberate attempt to silence them for doing what they were elected to do. Greg admitted that he made a mistake. You guys did not listen to the rationale behind it. But anyway, let's not pretend this process was fair. These resolutions were drafted in, these resolutions that are in the packet were drafted in secret. There was no open discussion, no input from all the board members.
That was tonight.
And worse, the accusations, so when Dean and Greg and Chris found out about these, guess when they found out about them? When they opened up, when they saw the packet published online. That's when they saw that they were going to be censured. Pardon me? Sorry. The accusations are vague, which was pointed out. They're based on feelings and probably, and a list of ethics that doesn't exist. So how does this decision build trust in the board, and how does it serve the residents of Tyrone Township? This censure isn't about accountability, it's about control. And the message you've sent tonight is that speaking up and challenging the status quo will not be tolerated. But me remind you, the residents who voted for Greg, Dean, and Chris did so because they wanted change. They wanted leadership that would stand up for transparency, accountability, and fairness. And tonight, those same residents are watching. And so the people, in fact, two on the board here tonight, who were, especially one, Herman, continually in contact with me, a resident who has spoken out for almost 4 years, calling me and asking me, what is on the agenda tonight? What should I say? I don't understand the agenda. Yeah, Sarah, you know that. And Sarah calling me and telling me and texting me and telling me things about the Planning Commission. And you think, all of you, you think that she hasn't said stuff about you and wants you gone too? I would love to show my text messages. You know, Sarah, I keep everything from day one. Got it all.
You do.
Yeah.
You like to weaponize it.
No, it's for the truth and transparency. That's all it's for. Truth and transparency. So I'm going to ask that the same, I'll finish my thought. Can I finish my thought without the heckling, please?
Quickly.
Okay, quickly. I'm going to ask let me finish, please. This isn't fair.
Bring it to order.
Come on, Greg.
Come on, just let her finish, really.
I am going to ask that the board consider putting Sarah Dahlman Jersey on for discussion next board meeting to find out and to talk about, is it appropriate for a board member to go on public radio and discuss her fellow board members and disparage them?
Okay, okay.
I'm
That's
asking
good.
that you
Okay,
do that.
okay.
Thank you. She did.
Quiet, come on, come on. Is there anybody else?
Yes.
Oh, come on. Hi, Helena.
Yes, Helena Merced,
Yep.
Morgan Road. I just want to make a quick comment.
Quiet, come on.
I've been watching this, I've been coming to meetings all the time. All I tell you guys, this is fight us against us. And please, there needs to be, stop acting like children, build up, be transparent. We have to think about other people who are coming to our township and trying to put the dirty paws on our township and ruin us. Lansing, Washington, big corporation, everybody's coming and trying to ruin us. We have to fight them, not with us. Please stop doing that.
That's right. You are right, Helena. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? All right, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Got a motion?
Support. That was already decided was to go
Yeah. Yeah. The only people,
Thank you.
You too.
yes, yes. Come on down to my office.
He doesn't even realize he did that. Well, a couple inches off the floor, that's what happens, right? Oh, I'm sorry.